Good morning. Welcome to my channel. I want to talk about not wasting your time. Don't waste your time. Life is precious. If you are living in a life that you're unhappy in, or circumstances that you don't especially want, but you're afraid of making a change, or afraid of the transitional period, or fear of the unknown, and so you're staying in a life that is misaligned with you, that you are not happy in, just start making the transition. Just start making the move. Or if you are wasting your time on superficial things, let's say like drowning out the boredom or the pain or the fear through watching TV or watching movies, or if you spend hours a day with the TV going, or you get up in the morning and go to a job that you don't especially like, but it's busy and it keeps you busy, and then you get home and everything is just the same routine, and you feel dissatisfied, like you are not accomplishing yourself and you are not being the most that you can be, or you have these far off dreams that one day when everything aligns and life allows. And the thing with that is that until you start making the change won't happen. See, life gives you what you put into it, or life gives you back a reflection of what you are. So if you are not making a change, and if you are not willing to start moving, then you can stay in the same routine for your entire life. And the thing with that is that when you look back on your life, the more that you make movement, the more that your life is colorful, the more things that you do, the more changes that you make. When you look back in your life, the more memories that you have, the longer your life seems to be. And when you do the same thing, and your memories are like flattened out, you'll notice if you look back in your life, okay, so there was this school time, there was this house time, there was this job time. And so your memories kind of, when you look backwards, they kind of get put into squares of time, or squares of places, or specific energies, or specific ways that you were, and when you keep in, and some of them also kind of overlap. Let's say in my life, I have the time that I was married. I was married for a long time. I was married for about 20 years. I left after 17 years, but we finally got a divorce after 20 years. And for a long time, I wanted to leave. For years and years and years and years, almost from the very beginning. And we have 4 wonderful children, and I did a lot during that time. I learned a lot. But at the same time, there were a lot of, and I realized that one of the biggest realizations that I had was that I'm on my way to Jerusalem. I'm going through the Jordan Valley, and there are like, I don't know, checkpoints in between. So I'm going right through a checkpoint right now. That's why it's bouncing, because they have like bumpers in the road. And what I was so afraid of was, I can tell you exactly what I was afraid of, but I was afraid also of the transitional period of moving out of something that I already knew. I had already felt safe to me. I was unhappy, but I knew how to do that. And sometimes the fear of the unknown is far larger than the known, even if you are unhappy in the known. Also, there were all sorts of circumstances within there. I was afraid of how was I going to make it on my own. I had never been on my own. I went straight from my parents' house to married life when I was very young, when I was 20. We have 4 children together. So how am I going to raise the children? We had a business together. How am I going to break up the business? How am I going to make a living was a big one of the biggest. And that transitional period, the period of the actual breakup, which I knew was going to be very difficult, because our lives were so joined together. And I was also kind of in fear of my husband's reaction, and my husband at the time, and my ex-husband's reaction. And the transition, it was difficult. Am I happy about it? Absolutely. It was absolutely. And so when I look back, I was thinking about it yesterday, that it was one of the best decisions that I ever made, even though the transitional period was so difficult, and it took a few years, the transitional period. But if you want change in your life, you are going to have to be willing to make that change. And sometimes it comes to where your life becomes so unmanageable. Many times your life becomes so unmanageable, and you become so unhappy that the fear of staying where you are is far greater than the fear of the unknown. And that's kind of like I felt that happened to me. And when I look back at that point, I realize, one of the biggest issues that I had after I left, and I looked back and I said, but why did I wait so long? I could have just done that, and I could have done that years ago. And so that was one of the things that really haunted me. And what I realized that really gave me a sense of relief in that and understanding is that had I been able to do it before I did it, I would have done it. So I needed to go through the whole process to get to the place where it was, I want to say, so bad that it was unmanageable to continue down that same route. So I needed to get to that place, because when I finally did leave, I was obese. I weighed twice as much as I weigh now. I was an alcoholic. I was working all the time. I was working every day. We had a business. We were running a business, and it was successful. So we had successes, but we had a joint business. We had a moving company in Chicago area, and I was working sometimes up to 16 hours a day, and we were raising 4 children. My life, and we had a big house in the suburbs, and each of us had a new car, and we had, what would be considered to be successful by way of the matrix standards. And also, that was one of the things that when I was growing up, I grew up in a house that you'd perceive as poor, and I always put such a emphasis on money. So I thought that, okay, I'm going to have a big business. I'm going to make a lot because it always seemed to me that people that had money had it all worked out. They knew what they were doing. Their life was happy. And it was a big issue with me growing up. And so I'm really happy that I got to experience that. And my marriage did allow me to experience that. So when I look back, I can say, at first I had that, why did you wait so long? And I think I went through a very long time with that kind of like FOMO, like fear of missing out, that kind of I had to go through the, I want to say it's a period of mourning over the years that I stayed. All of my because as soon as I left, I went through rehab. I quit drinking. I started losing weight. I got into therapy. I went to therapy religiously for 3 years, and I'm really happy that I did that. It was regular therapy. I decided when I got out of the marriage and I saw it, I just went I tried everything that came in, everything that I felt a calling for, of course, towards my healing. My healing became my biggest agenda. I was going to overcome the alcohol, and in order to overcome the alcohol, you have to start facing your demons, because the minute you give up alcohol, everything starts coming to the surface, everything that you were drowning with the alcohol. And it could be alcohol, it could be smoking, it could be drowning yourself in movies, it could be all sorts of things that you don't even consider to be addictions, and they are ways of behavior. And so I was drowning everything, my misery in my marriage, the everything, all of my childhood demons, everything. I was drowning with the alcohol, because when you drink, everything is a-okay. When you drink, everything is manageable. Boy, I'm going all over the place with this video. But the point of the video, to get back to the point, is this life is precious. And as long as you have life in you, you have the ability to make changes and to have choices and to move. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes you feel like you're locked in your life. You're locked in with mortgage. You're locked in a marriage. You're locked in all sorts of things that we perceive as locked in. And life doesn't have to be like that. You can make the changes, and the changes, when they happen one step at a time. It's not just like, okay, I'm magically going to go. Sometimes it works like that. You magically go from one life to another. But it starts with the decision, and the decision is the hardest part, because once the decision is there, nothing will stop you from making that change. But you have to come to that place where it's like a click. I remember with me, I grew up in a home where you don't get divorced. My parents have been together over 50 years. You don't get divorced. You work on it. You work on it forever and ever. And that is kind of like a theme in my family. Most of the couples in my family have typically you get married and that's it. That's it. That's, you work at it. And so I grew up in that kind of mindset, and for the most of my marriage, a lot of my marriage, it wasn't an option. I had it always on the back of my mind that you could get a divorce, but always I had at the back of my mind, on top of that, is you don't get a divorce. And it was almost like you kind of donate your life to it, or like forfeit your life to it. And we had 4 children. And I remember going to therapy with my husband. I found a really good therapist, and we started going to therapy. And after like a few meetings, my ex-husband exploded and walked out, and that was it. He wasn't willing to go back. And on one of those meetings, he told the therapist what a horrible person I was. How I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good house. I don't keep up the house well. I'm not a good mother. And he had like a whole bunch of things that I'm not good enough at. And I remember I was just like appalled. I was sitting there and I'm like, this is the man that I'm married to. And he thinks these horrific things about me. And he doesn't see any value in me. And I remember thinking, it was just like, I knew all these things because he would tell them to me. He would always tell. And now I don't blame, really. I see it as we weren't a good fit. What he considered, what he put on a pedestal as what needed to be, wasn't my same set of values. We had completely different values. But I remember sitting there, and it was like shocking for me. And you know how a lot of times you have, because he was putting it out on the table, matter of factly, just like this is matter of factly that I'm just this horrific person. And I remember, you know how sometimes you first you intake something and you're kind of shocked about it, but after you go to sleep and you wake up on it the next day, how it kind of has resolved. I know that when we go to sleep, things go from our temporary memory into our permanent memory, and they transition and they have the effect. And a lot of times energetically, we'll get something energetically, but in order to actually, a lot of times we'll be in a situation and only the next day will we feel energetically what impact it had on us emotionally, energetically. And I remember the next day I said to my husband that why are we married? You think all of these things, you think this and you think this and you think this and you think this about me. Why are we married? And I remember he said to me, it was the next morning, and he said to me, yeah, I know all those things, but I'm still willing to stay with you. I still want to be with you. I'm still willing to stay with you. And I said, yeah, okay, but why would I want to stay with somebody that thinks all those things about me? And it was kind of like a place, it was a turning point. It was a pivot point. And it was a point where that really set in. And from that point onward, there was no way that I was going to stay. And I think he also felt it, because with him there was also a little bit of an energetic, but it wasn't enough. It was after. And from there, something set in. At that point, I was still drinking. I was still, and we still had the joint company. We were still living abroad, but that was a changing point. And from that point onward, something in me shifted, and I think that's where the decision actually came in. Whether it was consciously decided or subconsciously decided, but from that point I knew that we weren't going to be able to stay on that same path, that something in me shifted. And I heard somebody say that before, I read years ago, I don't know where I got it from, but it's something that has been with me throughout my life, that we are only willing to allow someone to treat us in a way that we believe that we are, like if somebody treats us in a certain way, it's because we believe that we are deserving of that. The minute that we're treated a little bit lower than what we are, than what we believe that we are worthy of, we won't stay another minute. So if anybody is treating us, like if we're a victim in our marriage and somebody is treating us very poorly, there is something in us that is allowing that behavior, that we think that that is what we are worthy of. Because the minute that it is below that level, we won't stay. The minute we think that we're worthy of more than that, we won't stay. And I think that that was a realization point for me, where everything changed. And so I just want to point out, you can live many different lifetimes in one lifetime. I was 37 at that point. I was 37 years old, 4 children. All of our life was combined, and we made leaps and bounds. We moved abroad. I came back to Israel with my children. I filed for divorce. I went through rehab. So I was completely locked in. I was an alcoholic. I was obese. I weighed twice as much as I weigh now. And all of our life was joined. I had never really been on my own. And when I finally did leave my husband, it took 2.5 years before I even felt remotely ready to start dating. And at that point, I found a lovely man who we're still very good friends. We were in a relationship for 2.5 years, and I did a lot of healing in that relationship. And so And now it's been, since the divorce, it's almost been 12 years. Or since I left him, it's almost been 12 years. And so it is doable. You can always make that change. And if you feel like there is something that you want to accomplish and you're stuck in a life that you're not happy in, just start moving towards something. Start creating movement. Don't waste your time watching TV or watching movies, or, if you're watching movies, you're stuck in other people's stories. You're stuck in stories that people are telling you. Yeah, there's value in it. Sometimes you can find really good value. It's getting really hot in here and I don't have air conditioning. In a minute, I'm going to have to finish this so that I can open some windows. I'm driving. I'll show you where I'm at in a minute. I'll just turn it around so that you can see right before I finish. But I want to encourage you that you can live multiple lifetimes in one lifetime. There's so many changes that you can make, and drastic changes, and it always starts from exactly where you are at. And in every change, there is going to have to be the transitional period. And if you can look at the transitional period as the journey itself, I mean, you're going to have to be alive in between now and then. So why be alive in a life that you're not enjoying, rather than starting to move and make the changes that you want to change? And it doesn't have to mean that it has to be such a drastic change like I did, even if it's just opening a business that you've always wanted to open, or traveling somewhere you've always wanted to travel to, or changing the job that you don't like, or anything that is in that way. Making a move, moving somewhere where you wanted to move to your entire life. I made a move I moved from Israel to the States with 2 children in the beginning, and in 2006. And started life from zero. And then I made a transition back in 2013. I moved back with 4 children. We had 2 more children that were born there. And we moved back. I divorced, and I quit drinking. And so you can restart at any time. And now in my 40s, I'm 48. I'm going on 49 in a couple months now, or about 3 months. I'm going on 49. And now I'm starting new adventures, and new things are always starting in my life. So as long as you are alive, there are new starts, and as long as you are alive and making changes, it keeps you young. It keeps your mindset young. It keeps your mind open. It keeps you fluid. It keeps you flexible in your life. As long as you're alive, there is life to live. This life is precious. And if you feel like you're addicted to movies and the minute you turn your TV off, you're bored, sit in that boredom for a little while. Let some dreams come to the surface, because your life is always going to be more interesting, more intimate, more deeper, in depth than any TV show. You might get some value from a TV show or a movie that you watch, and something interesting and some kind of education. But if you're not taking that and applying it into your life to create movement in your life, then it is worthless. What is it good for? It sparks interest for a second, and then you move on to more interest and more interest, and you are allowing a story that is outside of you to steal your consciousness, to steal your life away from you. And so I really want to encourage you just to get out and to live life, to do new things, to try new things, to move on some of those dreams that you have. Just start creating some kind of movement towards what you want, and allow it to open up for you, because you never know where it's going to go. And all options are open in every moment. Start breaking down those glass ceilings that you have. When you can get up above your life and look down in your life, and you can see all of the opportunities and all of the options that are open to you, it's exciting. You can see that there's so many things that are open to you when you remove those glass ceilings that you have. And so I'm going to turn this around and show you where I am. I actually wanted to show you a little bit more of the desert scenery. Right now I'm going through an area where there's a lot of dates, but it will open up in a second. So here, let me turn it around. I'm behind a truck too, so it's not that interesting. So this is the Jordan Valley. I'm going to pause it so I can show you some more desert. When I get to the desert, I'll continue. So this is a little bit of like a deserty valley. I love this valley. This is the valley that the Jordan River runs down to the Dead Sea. Pretty soon I'm going to be coming up on where I can see the Dead Sea if I take a left, but I'm going to be taking a right up to Jerusalem. I'm taking a load of my parents' sculptures to the Garden Tomb. They do these sculptures, replicas of the Garden Tomb. And so that is my trip. And I also have 2 uncles that are visiting from Oregon in the United States that have come to Israel, and they are staying right now in Jerusalem. They were up north near us for about a week, and now I'm going to also see them in Jerusalem. We're going to go to the old city and have a day, and then I'm going to go stay at my girlfriend's house for the night, and then tomorrow and hopefully upload this video from there. And then tomorrow I'm thinking I'm going to the Dead Sea, or I have some other options, so we'll see. I'm leaving it kind of open, but I brought, as you can see in the back, I brought some blankets and a tent, and I was thinking on maybe spending a night on my own, doing kind of like a fire and my own kind of retreat. So I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you for watching. And if you've been here till now, thank you. And if you would like a one-on-one session with me to kind of look at your life and see what you're going through and get some inspiration and some perspective, then my contact information is below in my website. Thank you for watching.